I'm Raquel Richards. Welcome to What Are You Drinking? Come sit with me for 5 or 10 minutes or more, because on this episode, I have a treat for you. This podcast is for entertainment purposes only. Please drink responsibly. I'm sitting here with Trevor Burnett, who is a guest lecturer, spirits ambassador, and cocktail bon vivant. I hope I said that right. If I didn't, he's going to correct me. Trevor is a spirited cocktail virtuoso hailing from Montreal, but he now shakes and stirs in Toronto. Right here in Toronto. During the pandemic, he hosted over 300 online corporate and private cocktail classes, and in 2020 marked the year that Trevor launched Tipsy, the virtual show game from his Toronto-based studio featuring cocktail and spirits-themed show games, Boozy Bingo, TIKI-A-PLINKO, and recently Tipsy Tacos, which did very well, by the way. He has guested on Entertainment Tonight, Etalk, Breakfast Television, Global's The Morning Show, Sirius XM, and has been featured in lifestyle publications, including Chatelaine, The Globe and Mail, The National Post, and PAX Magazine. You know, Trevor is not just a bartender, but a globe-trotting ambassador. His career has taken him to over 130 cities, 30 countries, and 6 continents. Trevor has worked as a sales and marketing consultant with Labatt Breweries of Canada, Ambev, and Bacardi global brands. He was a delegate with the Washington-based People-to-People Citizen Ambassador Program and traveled to Rwanda to work with Serena Hotels. Trevor's creative concoctions and humorous storytelling has made him a sought-after consultant and a beloved cocktail connoisseur. So what are we going to be talking about? Well, Trevor and I are going to be talking about mint. Yes, mint and all its fabulousness for summer cocktails. Hello, Trevor.
Hey, how's it going?
I'm sorry, but I had to let people know your background because there a lot of it's long, but it's fantastic. You've done so much.
I have been very, very, very lucky in this industry, I have to say.
Yeah.
Big time.
So we're going to talk about mint. But first, I would like to hear from you what it is that you're currently doing now with cocktails and alcohol.
Man, I am so busy right now. So yesterday, for example, I worked with the Barbados Tourism Agency for the consulate, and we do these things where I try to capture the Barbadian culture in a cocktail, basically. And so we basically bring that to a lot of travel agents and stuff like that to encourage them to travel to Barbados. And so I worked on that yesterday, and that's one example. Today, I'm doing a private tasting or cocktail class with a bunch of corporate, it's like a corporate team building program.
Okay.
Just 9 people, and I'm going to be doing that in someone's, little venue space. I guess it's kind of like a food and drink venue.
Okay.
And then on the weekend, I'll be doing a feasty festival that's put together by a woman by the name of Evelyn Chick, and that's going to be at the Henderson Brewing venue.
Oh, Henderson Brewing, nice. Yeah. So I want to go back. Barbadian cocktail. What would you say is a Barbadian cocktail?
Well, the one that I usually prepare is called Sorrel, Sorrel. Some people think it's like the emotion, but it's not. It sounds like, when I say it sounds like sorrow, but it's Sorrel. and it's, Sorrel can also be a plant that's used in cuisine, but it's totally different what we do. We use what's called the Sorrel sun-dried hibiscus leaf. It's like a... Mm-hmm. So basically we take this, if you ever go to a David's Tea or any kind of tea shop, they have what's called hibiscus tea. You take that tea and you boil it with sugar. I add in some cinnamon, clove, star anise, and nutmeg. And then once I've got that syrup, I kind of separate the solids from the liquid. I put that aside. I put it in the fridge. I let it chill. And then I put together, a mixture of lemon juice, freshly squeezed lemon juice with the syrup. And then we do a nice healthy pouring of rum with that. And people love it. And so typically in the Caribbean, we would drink that during the holidays, Christmas time, that sort of thing.
Okay.
But, what I did was I once did a big show. It was back in the day. It was called the Gourmet Food and Wine Show. I did it there once. People loved it, and it really was kind of a very specific drink to Barbadian culture, Guyanese culture. Anybody in the islands would know about it. Even Mexicans have their own version of it.
Oh, okay.
And so it really is. It's a red drink. It's very. I have some. I can let you taste at some point.
Yeah, let's do a tasting.
Yeah, sure. You know what? Can I go and grab some? I have some.
You sure can. You should go grab some. He's got the Mount Gay Barbadian rum happening. So you mixed it and keep it in that bottle?
Yeah, it's great for a premix, right?
Right.
So I'll typically make it into a punch.
Okay.
And that way, when you're serving a ton of guests, I learned very quickly, I don't want to be shaking and stirring and stuff like that. People are just waiting. They're like, come on, get on with it, you know?
Yeah.
So this is a great thing to batch. You pour over ice. If you wanted to shake it, you could shake it.
I'm going to have a taste. I'm going to
Cheers.
taste of this. Yes, and it's nice and red. It's chilled. Yes, that's nice.
I don't even know if I mixed it up. I didn't even shake the damn bottle.
Well, I still like it, even if you didn't shake it. You said you don't really like to be shaken and stirred.
That's true.
So there we go. It's very, very tasty.
So anybody that is of, West Indian heritage, they would know what I'm talking about right now. But if you were a person who we make a joke, we're like, white people have no idea what this drink is. So I just call it hibiscus punch. And they're like, this is so great.
Exactly, because, we know the hibiscus, or hibiscus, it's said. It's
Caribbean, I don't know, tomato.
Exactly.
So, as long as you know what I'm communicating to you, that's all that matters right
That's
now,
all that matters. Okay, so we were supposed to be talking about mint, but, we went on to a sidebar here with hibiscus. So you were telling me that mint is... for the summer, it's very fresh, very, it makes for great cocktails. And we were going to talk about 3 cocktails, including the Mojito.
Yep.
So why don't we start with the Mojito, and then we can move on down with the other 2 that you're going to talk about.
Absolutely. So the Mojito is my favorite drink. Every bartender that I've ever known pretty much hates the Mojito, especially when they start out. I did too, right?
Right.
And then I started working for Bacardi and learned that the Mojito is one of the Bacardi legacy cocktails. So, back in the day, there's a long story, but I'll try to do my best to kind of shorten it.
Okay.
Bacardi was originally a Cuban rum before the revolution, and then they left and they built distilleries all over the world, right?
Right.
But originally it was in Cuba, and the Mojito is a Cuban cocktail. Because of the popularity of Bacardi, it really was the one that, championed that drink. Mint was grown quite abundantly in Cuba, lime as well, and of course Bacardi rum and sugar. And those are the elements of a Mojito, with the exception of club soda or sparkling water.
Right.
Very refreshing, super balanced. The key is you have to have fresh mint. I just picked up 3 pounds of mint.
3 pounds
from the supplier, right? And people are like, why are you buying so much mint? It's because when you make a Mojito, you got to be very delicate with it. You see these bartenders who kind of they muddle it.
Muddling it.
And they muddle the hell out of it, right? And I don't. I spank it. I clap it in my hands. There's a couple things that will do. When you clap it in your hands, first of all, just like you kind of jumped when I did it, it gets the attention of your guests, right? Then it actually releases the oils in the mint.
Which is what you smell.
That's another layer of sense stimulation for your guests in the room. But then it also comes out in the drink, right? So you're getting 2 aspects of the spank, which are very important to building this drink.
I like the spank.
Of course, yeah.
Spank your mint.
Yes. Anybody listening in the UK, correcting the mint is what they might say.
Correcting the mint. Okay.
And so that is one of the little tricks that I use. It also keeps the actual integrity of the mint intact. So, of course, everyone loves to Instagram their drinks. So instead of having this chewed up leaf from your muddling, you're actually getting a nice, full, beautiful looking mint leaf still intact in the glass.
Right.
You're also releasing less of the chlorophyll, because when you pound away at that mint, it releases chlorophyll, which, we've learned in science class is what gives you green colors to leaves, but it also lends a bitter taste that you don't necessarily want in this particular cocktail.
Okay.
Right? So you can do all these things, make it a lot more delicate in terms of taste and smell by clapping the mint in your hand. Okay,
so smashing the mint and muddling the mint is not really great.
For this cocktail, it's not what I would choose to do. But that's why I have 3 pounds of mint, because you're instead of putting like one leaf. And this is what a bartender would typically do. They're like, oh, we don't have any mint. Oh, shoot, there's 2 leaves. I can use those 2 leaves to make a mojito for this one person, right? So they're just going to smash that 1 or 2 pieces of mint till they can get as much flavor as they can. I don't. I grab a nice big handful of mint, clap it once, drop it right in the glass.
Okay.
That's all the mint you need. And then the bouquet of mint at the end that you put as a garnish, that scent and those aromas really make it a compelling beverage.
And that's what I was going to ask you is about the garnishes. So it would just be like a stem of mint. You wouldn't add any other type of garnish because it would ruin the drink and the sense and the flavor?
I wouldn't put a stem. I would put a bouquet.
A bouquet.
A bouquet. You want to have 3 or 4 of those stems.
Okay.
Right? Because that's a part of the experience. And then when you put this, because this is a drink that you need a straw for. You take the straw, you put the straw right in the bouquet. So when you go in for a sip, you get that burst of aromatics right in your nose, right?
Okay. Nice. And I like drinks with a straw. So aside from spanking mint, do you spank mint for any of your other cocktails? The other 2 you were going to talk to? Oh, okay.
Most of them.
Okay.
Yeah, most of them I do the spank. Because again, it's part of the theater of being a bartender, right?
Right.
You do that. People are like, what? It's like a teacher in class.
Oh, yeah. Got your attention.
You got your attention. And then they watch you. And then when they see you deliver it to the guest, and that guest says, this is the best mojito I ever had, then that's when you get, can I have one of those, please?
So if somebody was making this at home and they're having a barbecue and they're having people over and they wanted to make a picture of it,
right?
What would you suggest for that? Could you have a picture with like a bouquet of mint in that picture? I
wouldn't do a picture. I would just see, my wife makes the joke all the time for me. She's like, you have survived. You've paid the mortgage on your home basically on 2 drinks, the Mojito and Sorrel, because I do such a good job of these 2 cocktails that I don't need to offer anything else.
Okay.
Right? And so I'll even do, it's happened so many times, I'll put together a cocktail menu of, let's say, 5 great drinks. The Mojito will be in there, and maybe the old-fashioned. Right? All anybody does is order the Mojito and the old-fashioned, typically. But if it's a day like we have today, they don't want to drink old-fashions. They want the Mojito. Yeah. And I have the story with the Blue Jays where I used to make a blueberry mojito, but when you boil blueberries and create a syrup, they turn purple, right? And when I would serve these Blue Jays their, drinks, it would typically be Bud Light, right? Because the wives would come with them, and we would do this really phenomenal, bar for them. I bring sugarcane, and I bring all these accoutrements, right? And so then I'd make a blueberry Blue Jay mojito for the wife, and then they would walk away and be like, this is great. And I put a stick of sugarcane in the mojito. Oh, nice. Right, because I'll strip the sugarcane. And a lot of these guys are from the Dominican Republic. Again, they're from the tropics. They are familiar with this stuff. And then, Jose Bautista would say, what is that, a mojito? It's got sugarcane in it? I used to chew on that stuff when I was a kid. Get me one of those. Yeah. So then he's kind of like the alpha dog. Yep. And then, Encarnacion, I don't know if you know the Jays back in the day in like 2013, the bat flip era. Yeah. He would order one, and then all of a sudden you got all these jocks drinking purple mojitos. Purple mojitos.
With a straw.
And nobody's drinking beer anymore, right? So I realized that you can convert basically, anybody to drinking a mojito if you make it properly. Right. If you put the theatrics in there, if you do the little details, like you put a stick of sugar cane in there and you cut the sugar cane in front of them. And the other thing I do is I'll dust it with icing sugar. So I'll just hold the icing shaker over the top. And if it's the winter, it's like a winter mojito, it looks like. Snow. If you put cranberries on there, it looks like mistletoe with snow. So you can really manipulate the mojito to whatever occasion you want. And I think the point I wanted to make with this was, instead of a punch, punch is just pour and serve. You might as well just have, RTDs ready to drink. Right. You might as well have that. It would be better to just have one person, typically be me because I love making them. I always want to be doing something at a party. I'm not a guy who loves cocktail parties. I don't like chit chat and make small talk like, oh, this is how you get. Here's some great directions, or hey, look at the weather, blah. I hate that, right? So I like to be doing something functional. And so I'll do a mise en place where I set up a bunch of picked mint, and when I pick the mint, I take all the bottom leaves off of the stem. I leave the tops because those are going to be the bouquet, and then I have, my simple syrup already combined with the lemon juice. So you have fewer moves. The reason why people don't like the mojito, or bartenders specifically, is because there's too many moves.
Okay.
Too much labor.
Yeah.
It takes too long.
It's very labor intensive. Yeah.
Right. So it misses. They'd rather serve you a beer.
Of course.
Right? But if I'm dealing with anybody, whether it's industry folks or it's a regular consumer, they see the mojito and it's very Moorish. So my family's Guyanese, and we call it Moorish because you want to have more.
Moorish.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that. Moorish. I always talk about on this podcast about making your own simple syrups and making your own cocktails instead of buying RTDs, because that's what I believe in as well. It's just, they taste better, they're fresher. Dare I say healthier, but it's just that they don't have the junk that the RTDs can have.
Right.
And so going on with mint, what other cocktail can you make with mint? That's in your
The mint
in your
julep
bar.
is a classic. The mint julep is a total classic.
You learned that in bartending school.
You learned that?
Yeah.
I learned that from my good friend John Cruz in New Orleans. So he's kind of like my guru, and he told me the whole history of it, going back to Virginia and the antebellum period, and that's when a lot of the soldiers in the field of battle would drink mint juleps. Interesting story, I guess. They would use a pewter cup, or they wouldn't use glass, obviously, because they would break in the field of battle.
Of course.
So they would have pewter cups or something to that effect, some sort of material that was durable and also retained the coldness of the ice. And a lot of that ice from the south came from the north. So if you've ever seen the movie Frozen,
Yep.
there's that scene where they have at the start the guys harvesting the ice. The ice harvest was key. They would wrap the ice blocks in hay, and they would send them as far south as Martinique.
Oh,
right?
wow. And in hay.
In hay. So taking another step further, that hay is what led to people drinking with a straw. The term straw actually comes from straw, hay.
Oh.
Right? So they would use that to drink their mint juleps. In fact, if you've ever seen a julep strainer.
I have not seen a julep strainer. It's different than a cocktail strainer, or is it essential barware?
It is.
So we just dropped a bunch of, we just dropped a lot of El Dorado rum. Don't worry, none of it was open. Yeah, so your strainer, which looks similar to like if people strain tea, it's similar to that, right? But that usually comes in your martini set to help strain out the herbs or pulp. Yeah.
Yes and no, depending on how elaborate your martini set is.
Okay.
So this is the one you're talking about, right?
Yep.
So what I'm looking at, what Raquel's looking at right now is the one with the coil on it.
Yeah.
I'll talk about this later. This is a Hawthorne strainer.
Okay. Why is it called Hawthorne?
I have no idea.
Okay.
That's the one. I have no idea. Probably a guy named Hawthorne invented
Probably.
it. I have no idea. This one I do know. This is a julep strainer.
Oh, so it is very different. It's bigger. It's a bigger spoon.
Yeah.
So everybody knows it's bigger than your tablespoon. It's bigger than the big spoon you have in the kitchen.
It almost looks like a shell.
It's a mini tiny strainer.
Right. And you would use this where you would use the Hawthorne strainer on the tin, right? On the tin shakers. You might use this on the glass.
Okay.
But this was originally used on juleps, because if you've ever seen how a julep is served in that pewter cup, right? Big clump of ice on top, crushed ice.
Right.
And so back in those days, the soldiers would have huge beards. And when they would go and sip their juleps through that straw, their beards would collect ice. So this julep strainer would go on top of the mint julep, pewter cup.
So they wouldn't
to keep their beers out. And then somebody really looked at it and said, hey, I could use this on the other side of the bar. And so it kind of jumped the bar
It sure did.
from the guy drinking it to the guy serving it. And that's how it got the name julep strainer.
Oh, that's interesting.
This guy here,
The Hawthorne.
the Hawthorne, is great for situations like if you're going to make a whiskey sour, or let's say a Southside. A Southside is sort of like a sour, basically, right?
Yep.
That's got mint in it. That was what's his name? Al Capone's favorite drink, they say.
The Southside.
Yeah, so that's with mint, lime juice, and gin. And basically, it's kind of like a mojito without the sodas.
So you just took off the coil from the hawthorn. So it looks like a
like a slinky.
Slinky. That's
it's
what the word I mean.
It's slinky.
It looks exactly like a tiny, teeny, tiny slinky.
That's right. And so what you can do is you can take the coil off the hawthorn, and what does that look like right now? I've just folded it in half, and it looks like an egg beater that my mom used to use.
Oh, it does. That's right.
Try to make a meringue or something, right? So what I'll do is I'll take this hawthorn coil and I'll drop it in the shaker. If I have to add eggs to make a nice fluffy sour, this really ensures that you get that super fluffy foam on the top.
I see. Okay, yeah.
So you do a dry shake with this in there, and then you add your ice afterwards, and it comes out phenomenal, right? So each tool, especially these strainers, have a little trick to them. And once you start to kind of take on a few more drinks and you read books like I did, you learn all these like little pieces that can be a multi-purpose tool.
So your mint julep is another drink great for summer, another summer cocktail. And again, you better to make them individually. You can't really make that into a pitcher.
Yeah, there are certain drinks that are almost ritual-like. And if you compromise, you might as well just... Again, I say you pick your battles. If someone's having a party, I say, okay, just hire one bartender or hire me. And all I'm going to do all night or for the next 3 hours, I'm just going to pump out as many juleps and mojitos as I possibly can. And I'll tell the story. You'll see me with a mallet. Like, I don't know if you can see this giant mallet.
See this mallet.
Right here.
Oh, yes, that's a big mallet. There we go.
I'll use the mallet to crush the ice for both the mint julep as well as the mojito.
Serious weapon.
Those are all the J's. My story is authentic because those are all the signatures from
I see
the
Bautista.
Blue Jays.
Yeah.
You see Cito Gaston is on.
Yeah.
A lot of these
Signatures.
bars that I did
That's
were
amazing.
for alumni and that sort of thing, right? Or special occasions. And what they would do is they would sign my mallet because they'd see me pounding away at the crushed ice.
And because it's so big.
Yeah. And
They're like, what is this guy doing?
And they loved it. Everybody likes to see a show, right?
Yes, like that. Well, people love flair bartenders.
They would sign my mallet. They would sign. I'd bring fresh sugarcane. They'd pick up the sugarcane. They'd start signing the sugarcane.
Oh, amazing!
You know, they just it really lends a lot of fun to the atmosphere.
For sure.
Where again, if you just have a punch, you're missing out on the opportunity to really give people a wow factor, right?
Right. Yeah.
So it's worth it to spend the extra whatever it is.
Yeah, I agree.
To get a person there designated to make something. And people will remember it. They'll
remember your party, and you'll have had the best party on the block, and exactly. Everybody's going to want to come to your next party.
You don't need 6 options. You just need maybe 2.
Just 2.
Yeah.
Well, you've paid your mortgage, on 2.
I really have.
So there you go.
It's ridiculous. Yeah.
So the next one, Capone's drink.
Southside.
So let's talk about that. And it has mint.
Yes, it does.
Okay, so you mentioned it before, but let's refresh. What's in a Southside?
Okay, so the Southside is gin, whatever your favorite gin is.
What is your favorite gin?
I don't know. That's a really tough question.
I know, it's a tough one.
I don't know. I can't really pick a gin. Okay. They're all very different depending on what you're making, right?
Exactly. So you want to do a nice dry gin for the Southside?
You could use, I do some work with John Sleeman, who's originally known for brewing. He has a distillery called Spring Mill Gin now. They make a great gin. It's local for me, right? Because we're in Ontario. I used to use Bombay Sapphire when I worked with Bacardi.
Okay.
It's a fine gin for this particular cocktail.
I think Boodles would be a good gin for this.
Boodles is a good one. It really just comes down to whatever you have, work with it.
Okay.
Right. So I'm never going to slight somebody's gin. I'm going to be like, oh, that stuff tastes like donkey piss. No, it's no good. I'm always kind of very open-minded. It's like, well, challenge myself to work with whatever. Because most of the gin products that are in the LCBO are, retailer of alcohol.
Yep.
Or you go to any retailer in the States or anywhere, they're going to have a decent gin.
Yeah.
So pick it up and see what you can do to work with it.
Okay.
So the great thing about the Southside is it originates as a gin sour.
Okay.
Just like a whiskey sour.
Just like whiskey sour.
But you substitute gin in for the whiskey.
Okay.
Right? I use a combination of lime and lemon juice. It's superior to just, to to using just lime or just lemon.
Yeah.
So you use the combo, the two of them work magically together, right?
Okay.
So I use lemon and lime juice, 50-50, whatever gin is available, right? And then I will add simple syrup.
Okay. What kind of simple syrup?
I keep it simple, stupid, right? I use
the KISS theory, yes.
1-to-1 ratio. Okay. That's it. Because, I used to do a lot of work internationally. I'd have to call ahead or send instructions to some of these guys on cruise ships.
Yeah.
Where, a language barrier might be a problem, right? So I had to keep it as straightforward as possible. So I learned to just work with 1-to-1 ratio of sugar to water.
Yeah.
So they know when I get there. Because sometimes if you say, simple syrup, they use 3-to-1 sometimes, 1-to-1, 2-to-1. You don't know what you're getting, right?
Yeah.
So I specifically say 1-to-1 to keep it super easy, right?
Okay.
So that's what I will do for the gin sour. Once you add in the mint, that then becomes, you add the mint to the shaker, then it becomes a Southside.
A Southside. And what did it was Capone's drink. So what did because, we think of Southside as in LA or something like that. So where did this name come from, or do you know?
South side of Chicago.
Oh, okay, so
that was
it came
his
from
stomping
the
ground, right?
Yeah.
You can also, the step between the gin sour and the actual South Side is if you add bitters, and then it becomes what's called a Fitzgerald.
A Fitzgerald. Okay, yeah.
So the great thing, though, when I went to bartending school way back when, I was
Mine was way back when too.
I was so silly because I was like, I'm gonna go to bartending school. I'm gonna do the test, and I'm gonna become a bartender, right? And I'll go and get a job, and nobody cares that I went to a bartending school anymore. Or, I laugh at it sometimes, right? Because I was taught just to memorize recipes. They taught you a little bit about technique.
Yeah.
But they didn't really talk about the common sense of it. And so the common sense of it is you need to learn how to balance your cocktail and to balance the ingredients and understand why are you using certain ingredients and why are you using certain garnishes. I worked at a comedy club for a long time, and every garnish was either lime, lemon, cherry.
I know, right?
Didn't matter what the drink was.
And it was the maraschino cherries out of the
it was the one on the top of the chocolate sundae.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So, after you start to learn and experience and travel, etc., then you realize, okay, it's easier because I have a terrible memory. Everybody will tell you I have a horrible memory, right? But once you start to learn the common sense behind it, the memory of the ingredients and how to do it makes more sense. Like, for example, you shake a martini for a particular reason. You stir a martini for a particular reason.
Yep.
Why? For a long time, I was just like, I'll just shake it.
Yeah, right.
But some people want it aerated. Some people want more dilution, so you shake it. I didn't know that for a long time.
And you bruise the gin if you shake it.
That's what they say. But hey, listen, somebody might want their gin bruised. Some people like their experience a little rougher. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Who am I to judge?
Right? Exactly. So is it okay with you if we were to take the Southside, your Mojito, and your Mint Julep a recipe and have it in the show notes and have it on the website for the listeners?
Sure. Now, some people are purists, especially my buddy John, who's down in New Orleans, right? Some people are real purists. But whenever I make a cocktail with whiskey, not gin, or even with, I don't mind whiskey and rum. Instead of simple syrup or blueberry syrup or whatever, I like to use maple syrup because obviously...
Canadian.
There you go. But I also love maple syrup.
Yeah.
One of my favorite Christmas movies is Elf.
Okay.
And if you've ever seen Elf,
Yep.
the character loves maple syrup. I'm that guy.
You're that guy.
Right. And I realized that, first of all, it was probably out of laziness. But if I were to say to someone here, not so much internationally, but if I were to say to someone, because I did a lot of work with PR, and a lot of the PR people, they'd never made cocktails before. So if I asked them to get simple syrup, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
So I'd say, how about you get me maple syrup? Because you can't F that up.
No.
Right?
You can't.
You can't really F that up. No. And whatever's left over, it's mine. Right?
Of course, well.
And so maple syrup is genius I don't know if genius is the word, but maple syrup is great because if you're drinking rum, a quality rum, or you're drinking a quality whiskey, it's been aged in an oak barrel.
Exactly.
So the oaky notes of the barrel that is in the rum or the whiskey marry really well with the maple notes, right?
Oh, yeah, it sure does.
So you're layering in some flavor. Because if I asked you, describe the flavor of simple syrup or highly refined sugar, what would you say?
I would say sugary, like just rich, like thick.
Yeah, or sweet.
Yeah, well,
those are the words that come to mind, right?
Yeah.
If I said describe the flavor of maple syrup,
it would be sweet, but I have to say yummy. It's silky.
Right, that's how it would feel.
Yeah.
Right, that's how it would feel. But if it were me, I would say, well, it like campfire.
Yeah.
Or nature.
Yeah.
My childhood. It tastes like all these things. Like it reminds me of pancakes. It tastes like it's got a barkiness to it. So the point for me is it's an opportunity to layer in some more dynamic flavors and give it a more robust character than simple syrup. Simple syrup is exactly that. It's simple. Well, I want to make it a little more complex. So making it with maple syrup is always a great option. I wouldn't do it with the gin because it will just kind of take over and it doesn't marry well with gin specifically. You want the gin botanical. The botanicals, you want that to kind of showcase
yes.
on its own, right?
Yeah.
But I think it enhances the flavor of whiskey and rum.
Oh, it sure does. It absolutely does.
That's a long answer to a question I don't even think you asked me.
That's okay. This is what the conversation is about. I mean, there's so much involved, with alcohol, and I'm sure some people's heads are spinning, but that's why I'm going to have the recipes on the website and in the show notes with a link for you to go and get those. And just before we go, we've talked about mint, but what is your secret ingredient to a mixed cocktail that a lot of people, or bartenders, I should say, or may not think of using? I mean, I have one for a Long Island iced tea, for example, and it's lemonade. So what would be your secret ingredient in a cocktail that would be your go-to? Depending, I mean, not the mint we've been talking about,
right.
But
because mint is a really great option.
Yeah.
Mint, as much as I said, we would put the same garnish on a cocktail when I worked at the comedy club. Mint makes a really great, garnish on just about anything, right? But if it was a magical ingredient, this is kind of a no-brainer for most people, especially if you're an industry person. But bitters, bitters is such an easy way to uplift your cocktail, so to speak, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't want to say elevate because I've heard that so many times in marketing.
It's a marketing word.
If I hear somebody say elevate one more time, or
let's elevate it.
Pivot.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Unprecedented. What are the other buzzwords? There's a bunch. Yes. Gourmet, handcrafted.
Yes, handcrafted.
Trying to go through all the marketing. Curate.
No, yes, I don't like that one.
If I was curating a cocktail, Raquel, I would use bitters for sure because it really does. Back in the day when I started bartending, which is only like 1997, to go on a tangent, that is the menu from the bar I started working
at. We're looking at a picture on the wall he has that's red and white, and it's and what I can't see that from here.
That's the Maple Leaf Covent Garden pub. So if you've ever been to London, England, that is a Canadian-themed pub that I started working in like 1997.
Okay.
My first bartending job, right? Back then, I knew nothing. I knew nothing. I got too excited. I knew nothing back then about bartending, like very little. I knew how to crack a beer, serve, and back then in the UK, you would pull on the pump, right? Yep. That's the type of place. But they even had bitters. They had Angostura bitters. But when we were in Toronto or Ontario, there was very few options in 1997 for bitters.
Oh, there was like, it's only really come to be in the past, from my experience with working at the LCBO and such. 5 years?
The LCBO finally embraced bitters about 5 years ago.
Now, what are your thoughts? Now, there's so many different flavors of bitters. We're just going on a bit of a tangerine here. I like Dillon's.
Yep.
Yeah, I like Dillon's. And, the different flavors. I have orange in my bar right now. Do you have a preference?
I find that orange bitters complements most beverages.
Yeah.
The citrus is a natural, right?
Yep.
Whether it's an old fashioned, a Manhattan, any of those classics, orange bitters blends well, right? Chocolate bitters is a goodie. if you can find it. There's a million different brands out there. One of the best places to pick up bitters, for me, I learned.
This is what people would like to know, yes.
And this is an internationally available product or company, cocktailemporium.com. My good friend Kristen Voisey opened that, I don't know, probably 10 years ago or more. And you can get all kinds of bitters, syrups, etc., bar tools. But their selection of bitters is very impressive. It's very impressive. And so if you need chocolate bitters, if you need ginger bitters, if you need gumbo bitters for something that's more savory like a Bloody Mary or a Caesar, they got it, right? So the secret ingredient I would just categorize as bitters, because bitters is like, you know, a chef uses salt and pepper, we like to say. Well, a bartender should use bitters. And you can make a very pedestrian cocktail like a gin and tonic or a vodka soda, a very special experience by using whatever arsenal of bitters you have behind the bar. And they're not super expensive. And, you know, one bottle goes a long way.
It sure does. That's why they sell them in small bottles. You know,
right.
you're not pouring a shot of it, people.
Exactly. And if you were my guest, I might talk to you a little bit and learn about your favorite ingredients, etc., and what you lean towards. And you might say, "Oh man, I love chocolate. I can't wait to get the, you know, the chocolate brownie on the menu or something, whatever it is, right?" And then I'd listen. If you're a good bartender, you're a good listener, not just to problems, but also to what the person is, you know, wanting to drink or eat, right? And I would add a dash of chocolate bitters into whatever it is. It could be the Negroni. It could be, you know,
Negroni.
Chocolate is the reason why I use chocolate is because, again, if you're serving brown spirits, whether it's whiskey, rum, cognac, etc., there's an element typically of chocolate in there. And I'll say, people will say, "Oh, there's hints of cocoa in it." You know, the super pretentious will say, "Hints of cocoa from Mexican, you know, farmers and blah blah blah."
Shishi, bougie.
So chocolate has always got an element in there, and if you think about the tasting notes with things like whiskeys and rums, they will often have things like hints of coconut, hints of citrus notes, or they'll say, you know, hazelnut, almond, pecan, or
pecan, exactly.
Yeah, all of these things these are all, you know, qualities that you will find in a good chocolate nugget or a chocolate, what do you call it?
Cake?
Well,
you're making me think to go like chocolate cake.
I think what I'm looking to say is truffles.
Truffles.
Yeah, or brigadeiros. If you've ever had a brigadeiro, it's a Brazilian chocolate.
I haven't had that.
Mary's Brigadeiro here in Toronto makes a terrific brigadeiro. And so they have hazelnut. So what I'm saying is chocolate pairs really well with brown spirits because a lot of the aromatics and the tasting notes align with the two of them, right? So hints of chocolate and cocoa, etc., as I mentioned.
Yep.
Coconut is great in chocolate. You look at any assortment of truffles, a lot of them pair up well with what you would find in terms of the hint of flavor in a great whiskey or rum or cognac.
I think you've made people want to have a lot of drinks right now.
Well, we'll see. we shall see.
We shall see. Yeah. Where can people find you?
When I'm not sitting here in this lovely little room.
And you've got to see this fantastic one, by the way. It's just,
You can take photos, I guess. Maybe post them somewhere.
Well, yeah, I'll use it for promo for sure.
I'm on Instagram. My Instagram is at @the_incredible_project. I don't know why I made it so bloody complicated, but the Incredible Project is what I named it, and you know, I'll be there. I don't post as much as I used to before.
Yep.
But I'm definitely on there, so you can reach out to me for whatever you want.
See it there. Well, I want to thank you, Trevor, for being here on What Are You Drinking? And we didn't just talk about mint, which was great, because maybe some people are like, mint? Really, man? But you educated people on mint.
Can I say one more thing about
mint? You
mint?
absolutely can. You can say, what about mint?
The beauty of mint is that there are so many varieties of mint. I'm going to sound like the Bubba Gump guy, right? You got apple mint, spearmint, peppermint, chocolate mint, pineapple mint. There's such a vast array of mint out there that you can use in your mojito or in your mint julep to give it a really varied flavor. You can even take the different styles of mint and create a cocktail of mint in your drink, and it's really great. When I did some work for the Ritz-Carlton downtown,
Yep.
we built mint gardens, and we actually had these different pots on the patio, and they were filled with the mint that was used by the bartenders to create the cocktails on the mojitos on the cocktail list. So the variety of mint that is out there is great, and it grows like wheat. My backyard right now is covered in mint because you can't control the stuff.
Yeah, that's what I was about to ask you, is because we're down here near Humber River in Toronto, and mint grows here, correct? Like naturally. So is that mint that we see out here near Humber River? Could we use that?
Yes, indeed. I would totally. I would use the stuff in my backyard, but there's a lot of people with dogs in this neighborhood.
Yes.
And they like to urinate.
They do.
I don't want any pee-pee on my mojito.
No. We don't want pee-pee mint.
No pee-pee mint, man.
No pee-pee mint.
I don't want that.
We want the good mint.
Right. Keep the pee-pee mint out there for the doggies. I like to use my own mint in the backyard.
To answer my question myself, then, is you can use it, but it's suggested not to.
Use it at your own risk, my friend.
Use it at your own risk. Well, I want to thank you, Trevor, for joining us here again. And you can check out Trevor at, as he mentioned, at The Incredible Project. That is the_incredible_project. I've included his socials and links and recipes. They will be in the show notes and on the website. And check out What Are You Drinking on IG at what_are_you drinking. The R is the letter R. I'm Raquel Richards. Thank you, Trevor. Thank you very much for sipping with us. Until next time, cheers.